Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am the dashing host Christopher. I'm known all over the world as the guy who hosts this channel. So I know you're just as shocked to see me as I am to have said that. So this is Epic History TV. I know that because it says it right here. And if you're wondering what that is moving on screen, that's magic. It's me moving it with my eyes. You can't see the mouse. This is the Battle of, I believe it's called just Somme. This is, yeah, we're going to Americanize it. This is July 1st, 1916. Yeah. I'm putting my own spin on it, folks. And we're going to go ahead and cover this because this was part of World War I. I would love to do a Battle of Verdun. For a lot of people died. I'd love to do one of those. Not for the fact that a lot of people died, just because it was just a 304 days, and it was just brutal. So we're gonna go ahead and do this video, and you're gonna like it. So let's go.
1916. Europe is in the grips of the most destructive conflict yet known, World War I. Much of the fiercest fighting takes place on the Western Front, where British, French and German armies are locked in a bloody stalemate along 450 miles of trenches. There have been millions of casualties, but neither side can break the deadlock. The combination of barbed wire, machine guns and heavy artillery means troops trying to cross no man's land, the open ground between the trenches, are slaughtered en masse. The advantage is always with the defender. But the Allies are committed to more attacks. They're determined to liberate the parts of France and Belgium that were occupied by Germany in the first months of the war. The British and French have agreed to launch a joint offensive in the summer of 1916. But the Germans strike first. In February, they launch a massive assault on the French fortress city of Verdun. Its defense requires all available French reserves. So the summer offensive will be led by the British, their biggest attack of the war so far. Its chief aim now, to relieve pressure on the French at Verdun. The attack will take place along a 25-mile front near the River Somme in July. The new British commander, General Sir Douglas Haig, would prefer to attack near Ypres, where there are clearer strategic objectives. But the Somme is where the British and French armies meet, so where a joint offensive must take place. He would also prefer to wait until his inexperienced divisions have received more training, but the French need his help now. The Somme has so far been a quiet sector, allowing the Germans to build up strong defensive positions. Here the Germans have two formidable defensive lines, with a third under construction. Each consists of 3 lines of trenches, fire, support and reserve, connected by communication trenches. They bristle with machine gun positions, and are anchored on fortified villages and strongpoints. In front of the trenches there are thick belts of barbed wire. Below are dugouts, some 10 meters deep, to shelter German troops from artillery fire. Telephone lines buried 6 feet deep allow troops at the front to communicate with artillery batteries during an attack. The German troops that hold the line are well trained, and most are combat veterans. The offensive will be led by the British Fourth Army, commanded by Lieutenant General Sir Henry Rawlinson. With Haig, he draws up the plan of attack. To overcome the Germans' formidable defences, the British will carry out a massive, week-long artillery bombardment with 1,400 guns. This is expected to destroy German barbed wire, flatten trenches, and kill their occupants. 19 mines are also dug under key German strongpoints and filled with explosive, ready to detonate just before the attack begins. To the north, the British Third Army will make a diversionary attack at Gommecourt. The 16 British and French infantry divisions are then expected to take their objectives with minimal opposition. The attack will begin at 7:30 a.m. in broad daylight, so the artillery can observe its fire. British morale is high, and the men are confident of victory. Many of the units taking part are PALS battalions, the eager recruits of 1914, now about to face combat for the first time. But on the eve of the assault, there are worrying reports that the British bombardment has been only partially successful. 1.6 million shells are fired, but due to inexperienced gun crews, a shortage of heavy guns, and faulty shells, much of the German barbed wire remains intact. German defenders, too, are largely unscathed in their deep dugouts. And from captured prisoners and listening in on uncoded telephone calls, the Germans know exactly when and where the British are coming. The Allied artillery bombardment reaches its peak at 7 a.m. At 7:20, the British detonate an enormous mine under a German strongpoint, the Hawthorne Redoubt, and British troops rush forward to occupy the crater. At 7:28, further mines are detonated under German strongpoints along the front. At 7:30, the Allied bombardment moves on to the German second line, as British and French infantry begin their advance across no man's land. German troops, meanwhile, race up from their dugouts to set up machine guns. It's an enduring myth that all the British infantry climb out of their trenches and walk steadily towards the German line. A few units do, but most send men out into no man's land before the bombardment lifts, so the final dash toward the enemy line is as short as possible. But in the northern sector, whichever tactics are used, the British are easy targets for German machine gunners, especially where they bunch up to get through the few gaps in the barbed wire. The British infantry advance bravely, but are mown down in their hundreds. Some units do break into the German line. Near Thiepval, the 36th Ulster Division captures the Schwaben Redoubt. But without support on either flank, it's isolated, and the survivors are forced to retreat that night. On their right, the 32nd Division takes the Leipzig Redoubt, while near La Boisselle, the 34th Division captures the Lochnagar mine crater. But these are just small toeholds in the German line, far short of their objectives. In World War I, one of the greatest challenges faced by commanders is getting accurate information about the course of the battle. Reliable field...
I would say that was pretty much... I apologize for this is the first pause, but I don't know what I'm supposed to chime in here because... But anyways, I'm pretty sure every single military leader had problems understanding things. I mean, Civil War, Revolutionary War. it doesn't really matter. Insert a war, and there was a commander that was pissed because he didn't have the information that he wanted. And if he did get it, it was what is it, a day late and a dollar short, as they would have said. So I mean, well, you know, a dollar short. Insert your own money, but you know, they would have been furious because, well, that was the information I needed yesterday, and the information I need today I'm not going to get till next week. So I think every commander throughout history in almost every battle has dealt with this, even today in some aspects.
Radios haven't been invented yet.
Yeah.
Telephone lines are regularly cut by shell fire. So officers must turn to messengers, flag signals, light signals, even homing pigeons, none of which is completely reliable. To get around this problem, during an attack, supporting artillery works to a fixed timetable, moving their fire onto the next line of enemy defences at a set time. So when the infantry start their attack, gunners adjust their fire onto the second line of enemy defences. But if the infantry get held up, the supporting fire keeps moving on according to the timetable. The infantry get left behind and are at the mercy of enemy machine guns. Aerial observation by balloons and aircraft can provide valuable information, but rely on good weather and control of the skies. This is one.
This is just a side note, but during the Revolutionary War, I don't know how many people know this, balloons were used near the end of the war, and they would raise a balloon up and look over the battlefield, or not battlefield, I'm sorry, look over at a distance, because that was a way for them, that was kind of binoculars, you know, an extra binocular view. I just got really tall. I'm just going to be up here for now on, but that was where the, they used balloons, and I believe Lincoln went up in a balloon and kind of looked around, and they were saying, yeah, that's, you know, such and such unit, and da 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 da, and then over here you've got this unit, and da da, and so it was an early source. I'm pretty sure they were shot at, but I don't know, and I don't know much about this other than I believe I heard it or I read about it, but it could be completely true, untrue. But anyways, yeah. So I can understand why this would be
on the 1st of July. It takes British commanders hours, even days, to find out which attacks have been successful and which have failed. This makes it extremely difficult for them to react to the situation with any speed. Further south, there is much greater success. Despite heavy losses, the 21st and 7th Divisions take Mametz and cut off the heavily defended village of Fricourt, which the Germans abandon overnight. On their right, the 18th and 30th Divisions take their objectives, including the village of Montauban, which is secure by 11 AM. Alongside them, the veteran French 20th Corps also takes its first day objectives, as well as 2,500 German prisoners.
Wow.
The Germans didn't expect the offensive to extend so far south, and are less well prepared. And, crucially, the Allied bombardment is boosted by French heavy guns, which are much more effective at destroying barbed wire and German strongpoints. At 9:30 AM, French colonial troops lead the attack south of the Somme River.
Sorry.
The French seize all their objectives and take 3,000 more prisoners. Despite success in the south, the first day of the Battle of the Somme is a costly failure for the British. German losses for the day are estimated at 12,000 men. The French lose 7,000, but the British suffer a staggering 57,000
Holy
casualties,
shit!
1/3 of them killed. The 1st of July 1916 becomes the bloodiest day in the history of the British Army. And it's just the first day in a battle that rages for another 4 months, finally ending in November amid freezing rain and mud. By then, the Allies have advanced 10 miles at a cost of 430,000 British casualties, 200,000 French casualties, and 450,000 German.
Jesus.
It makes the Battle of the Somme one of the bloodiest in history. In British popular memory, the Somme is remembered as an unmitigated disaster and tragedy, evidence of the incompetence of British generals and the pointless sacrifice of the gallant soldiers under their command. But to those who fought it and those at home, the Battle of the Somme was seen as a success. Casualties were enormous and hard to bear, but across Europe every warring nation was suffering terrible losses, as all commanders struggled to find an answer to trench warfare. And at the Somme, the British had not only helped save their French ally, who went on to defeat the Germans at Verdun, but learned vital lessons about how to fight on the Western Front. Most of all, the Battle of the Somme had been a costly but necessary wearing down of the German army, an immensely painful but vital step on the long road to victory. Maps.
Oh, Battle of the Somme. Has anyone ever been to the Somme and just toured the battlefield? I think that would be pretty cool. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that, yeah, there was a lot of losses, obviously. It was, World War I, a lot of losses, period. World War II, losses. But when it was a new form of fighting, just trench warfare, you got tanks, planes, gas. I'm trying to figure out how to say it, how to word it. Not that it's terrible, but when you're dealing with all these new kind of ways to fight, weapons, the trenches, you're gonna have an excess of casualties. It is what it is. And it's not that the commanders were stupid or anything like that. They're dealing with something that they've never seen before, and they're getting information from higher ups who have never seen it before. All of this is new. Trench warfare started in the end of the Civil War. You have that Russo-Japanese War. But this is still new. I mean, you can learn about something. Learning about it then, it's not like you could really watch a video or anything like that. The teaching technique wasn't as easy as it would be today, where we could just film it and then show it. It's vastly different. So I can understand why there would be a lot of deaths. It's a brand new way of fighting, and you're not going to be able to comprehend it as easily. It is what it is. It's just a lot of people are going to die, and it sucks to put it that bluntly and make it sound that harsh. But when you're dealing with that, something so new, so much new stuff: tanks, planes, trenches, machine guns. When you're dealing with all of these kinds of new weapons of war, it is what it is. We understand it now, but you didn't really understand it then. I'm not trying to get people who were terrible at their job, but I'm not trying to, say, oh, those British generals, they weren't as bad, or this or that. They may have still been bad, but they were bad at a time with new technology, which made it worse. If that makes any sense. I'm sure, Panda, if I'm wrong, tell me, because I'm sure you will. This is interesting. We're going to end this here. Somebody asked me to do the Battle of Somme, and I will find out who that was, but I do appreciate it. Sorry, a guy from work is sending me pictures of his beach vacation. Alright, well, I'm going to end this here. This is good. I'm really digging World War I. I know a little bit about World War II, but World War I was just one of those, and I'm trying to get into it. I have that book, and I can't convince myself to start it. But I'm pretty sure it's just going to be brutal. Alright, well, I'm going to end this here. Subscribe, like, thumbs up, death if you don't, and have a good day, have a good night.